Imagine a battlefield in ancient times. Rows of soldiers stand ready, swords in hand, shields raised, ready for battle. The sound of clashing steel fills the air, and amidst the chaos, one figure stands behind the scenes, overlooked but absolutely essential to the victory. This figure is the combat instructor, the silent architect of success. Without their guidance, even the bravest warriors would fall, and the society they protect would crumble. But how did combat instructors shape the outcome of wars and the rise of empires? Let's explore the pivotal role of these often forgotten figures and how their expertise influenced history. Combat instructors weren't just teachers, they were the backbone of any military force, and their impact went far beyond just training soldiers. They were responsible for developing the skills that raw recruits needed to survive in battle. But their expertise didn't stop at combat techniques. They also passed down critical strategies, tactics, and military philosophies that were essential for victory. More than that, they created cohesive, organized fighting forces. They standardized training methods, ensuring that individual soldiers didn't operate as isolated units, but as part of a unified and disciplined army. Without these instructors, soldiers would have lacked the skills to function effectively as a team, leaving their societies vulnerable to external threats. The journey to becoming a combat instructor wasn't an easy one. It required years, often decades, of experience and mastery. Many combat instructors began their careers as elite warriors themselves, proving their skills in battle before transitioning into training roles. But being a combat instructor was more than just knowing how to fight. It required a deep understanding of large-scale strategies, battlefield formations, and siege tactics. Combat instructors didn't just teach skills, they shaped military doctrine. They were tasked with passing on not only practical knowledge, but also the cultural and philosophical teachings behind these techniques. These instructors ensured that their knowledge wasn't lost to the next generation, and that their teachings would continue to guide soldiers in future battles. Their influence wasn't confined to the battlefield alone. Combat instructors were often advisors to kings and generals, offering counsel on tactics, defense, and the construction of military forces. Their expertise was so valuable that, in many cultures, control over military training also meant control over the army itself. In this way, combat instructors held substantial political power and influence. Their ability to mold and shape armies gave them a direct hand in the rise and fall of rulers and empires. They were not just military figures, they were the guardians of a society's power structure. The influence of combat instructors reached far beyond military success. It shaped entire civilizations. A well-trained army provided a sense of stability to communities, ensuring the safety and defense of their lands. An army capable of defending itself and expanding its territory would create a strong, prosperous society. And these armies didn't just defend, they conquered. Societies with superior military training were able to dominate weaker ones, spreading their influence across continents. But it wasn't just about defense and conquest. The traditions and codes of conduct that combat instructors instilled in their soldiers often became the core of a society's identity. The discipline of the Spartans, the honor of the samurai, these cultural elements were born from the military training passed down by generations of combat instructors. In many cases, the values of a society were deeply intertwined with its military practices, which were rooted in the teachings of these instructors. The principles that made combat instructors so essential in the past are still relevant today. Modern military academies and boot camps are direct descendants of the ancient training grounds that combat instructors once ran. The ability to adapt to new technologies and challenges remains as important as ever. Just as combat instructors of old had to teach soldiers to adapt to new weapons and tactics, modern military leaders are now faced with the task of preparing their forces to combat the threats of the 21st century, including cyber warfare. But the most enduring lesson that combat instructors leave us with is the importance of cohesion and leadership. The ability to build disciplined, unified teams remains a cornerstone of military success, whether on the battlefield or in business, sports, or any organization that relies on teamwork. Combat instructors remind us that victory in any field, be it war or business, requires a foundation of training, discipline, and strategy. Behind every successful team or army, There's a leader who has shaped their soldiers, refining their abilities and preparing them for success. Whether it's the Roman legions, the samurai of Japan, or modern armies today, the legacy of combat instructors lives on, proving that their contribution was more than just training. It was the bedrock upon which civilizations were built and wars won. In conclusion, combat instructors were the silent architects behind history's greatest military achievements. Their expertise transformed ordinary soldiers into skilled warriors, shaped the strategies that won wars, and ensured the stability of societies. From the disciplined ranks of Roman legions to the disciplined samurai of Japan, the influence of combat instructors has been woven into the fabric of human history. Without them, the chaos of the battlefield would spill into the societies they served to protect, leaving civilizations vulnerable to collapse. Behind every victorious army stands a combat instructor who turned chaos into order, turning soldiers into heroes, and ultimately, ensuring the survival of the civilization they fought to protect.